Hello, gorgeous. Today, we are talking about my best tips for stress-free travel. Just the tips. So here's a little peek behind the curtain. This episode is airing in June, but I'm actually recording it just after I have gotten back from my amazing trip from Portugal. So these tips are fresh in my mind. Why am I recording this so far in advance? Well, because I have a bunch more travel coming up. So I always batch record these episodes, believe it or not. And my June episodes, I'm recording very far in advance because I have a bunch of really exciting travel coming up, mostly for work, some for pleasure. So let's jump right into stress-free travel. And the more organized I have gotten, the more I actually enjoy going on vacation. And I have shared in the past the very sad reality that there was a time where I just didn't even look forward to vacation at all because I was so stressed about everything that had to get done before we left, that I was going to have to do when I got back, that it just wasn't even fun. And I am happy to say that that is not our reality anymore. But traveling can still be stressful, even if you really look forward to vacation. And I definitely have some tips to reduce that stress because I've realized that travel and seeing the world is one of life's greatest pleasures for me, but it does require a lot of planning, especially when you have kids. And I remember just before we took our first vacation after my son was born, a friend told me that traveling with kids is not a vacation, it's a trip. And that is true. And while many things actually get harder when your kids get older, traveling is one of those things that I would say, at least in my family, definitively, unequivocally is easier as your kids are older. There's less stuff to pack. There are not sleeping schedules you have to stick to. There aren't as much food requirements, certainly not in my family. My kids are not very picky eaters. We have worked hard at that. That could be a different episode. But certainly things just get easier. And that has been really fun. But regardless of how old or young your kids are, the tips I'm going to share today will help you because these were tips and strategies that I put in place many, many years ago before my kids got to the super fun ages that they are today. So I'm going to share my top 4 stress-free travel tips to help save you from potential headaches. And I am going to share one story with you. If you have a queasy stomach, maybe like advance a minute or two. We go to the Jersey Shore every summer and we drive down there. And it's a pretty long drive, even for older kids. It can be, 7-8 hours. And one time when we were actually leaving the Jersey Shore on our way back, one of my kids got sick in the car. You know what I'm saying? And because we had just been in a house rental for 2 weeks, we had trash bags and we had wipes and change of clothes, all the things that we needed to deal with it. It was just luck that it happened when we had all these things in the car. And that actually prompted me to be super prepared. Actually, all the time in my car, I drive around with what I have called a barf kit that has rubber gloves and plastic bags, trash bags, some wipes. We've aged out of having a change of clothes for the kids, but I do have all those other things in there, which actually is not one of the 4 travel tips that I'm sharing with you, but it just underscores the importance of being prepared. And this is not just if you are flying, because most of the tips that I'm going to be talking about today relate to flying. But if you are driving, certainly making sure that you have emergency items in your car is very important. So let's jump into my 4 tips that are most important if you are going on a vacation via an airplane. The first tip, and these are not in any particular order, is to pre-plan your transportation to the airport, transportation from the airport to your hotel. Once you're at your destination, what is your transportation? It doesn't mean you have to pre-book everything, but it is super important to plan out your transportation. We recently, for our trip to Portugal, took a car service to the airport, which we almost never do. We always just drive and park the car. But we realized, we had heard that the airport was going to be a mob scene because it was school vacation break that we were traveling. And we didn't want to deal with it, especially because we had an international flight. So we got the name of someone from actually a client of mine, and we took a car service to the airport, and it was amazing. And when the kids were little and needed car seats, we had found cab services that had car seats as well. Obviously, that is not a consideration for us anymore, but it was so nice. And once we landed in Lisbon, we rented a car, and we had that pre-booked in advance. And knowing how you were going to get around totally takes the stress out of it. On the way back, because we didn't want to deal with having a driver meet us, we didn't know how long it would take us to get through customs, it actually felt more stressful to have someone picking us up. And we knew that there would be a cab stand. We'd be able to get a cab in the line. So the point is, we had thought through all of our transportation so that there were no surprises. We made it everywhere we needed to be on time, and it drastically reduced the stress of just figuring out how we were going to get around. Certainly, if you're driving to the airport, if you're going to be parking at like a satellite parking lot, you need to plan the time accordingly. And so thinking through all of this in advance will make your life so much easier. If you are traveling with little ones and you will be arriving in a foreign country or anywhere that you're going, and you are going to need cabs with car seats, that is something you can plan out in advance if you don't want to travel with them. Traveling with car seats can be a real buzzkill. It also can be nice to have them on the airplane if your kids have their own seat to keep them strapped in. But thinking through your transportation in advance will be a game changer. Tip number 2 is to start thinking about your packing well in advance. I am not, believe it or not, an advanced packer for 2 main reasons. One is, I guess 3 actually. One is that you might need the stuff that you're going to be traveling with. And so it's annoying if it's packed away. The other thing, and we experienced this for sure when we were traveling to Portugal, is you don't actually know what the weather is going to be more than 10 days in advance. And there was like a 10-degree swing factor from when we first started mapping out what we were going to pack for Portugal and then the week before we left. So I'm very glad that we had not pre-packed, because we would have had just stuff that was way too warm. We had ended up having beautiful perfection weather. And the third thing, and this is for those of us that are a little bit anxious, maybe a little bit OCD, you're just going to second guess what you packed in the suitcase anyway, and you're going to want to go through it all again. So you might as well wait to put it into the suitcase until right before you're leaving. But having said that, I think it is super important to map out in advance what you're going to pack. And believe it or not, I used to be a total packing procrastinator. I wouldn't call it a procrastinator, but I am still a last minute packer in terms of putting things in our suitcase. We flew out to Portugal on a Saturday, and Saturday night we packed on Saturday. But the reason we could do that is because we had done this pre-packing step, which I want to talk about now. And that looks like going through what you're going to be doing every day of your vacation, looking at your itinerary, looking at the weather, and thinking through what outfits you're going to need. If you're traveling internationally, making sure you have the adapters that you're going to need, any medication. I wear daily disposable contacts. I always need to make sure I have enough contacts that I can bring with me. All the things, all the things you're going to need. Go through and make sure you have everything. Do you have all the travel toiletries that you're going to need? So we did this probably 2 weeks before we left for Portugal. And we realized that the kids each needed a couple clothing items because most of their summer clothing they had grown out of, and it was going to be really warm there. So we got them each a couple items of clothing. We realized that we needed some more travel toiletries. So we were able to order all those things. You know, I hate shopping in person. And so I was able to order all those things online and get it in plenty of time. So while we didn't actually pack any of our belongings, we did know exactly what we would need, and we had plenty of time to order anything. As you are thinking through your vacation, so we typically, when we go away for a week, we don't do laundry. The only place we do laundry on vacation is when we go to the Jersey Shore because we're there for 2 weeks and we're in a house and there's laundry in the house. So we have to ensure, for example, did the kiddos have enough underwear for every day of the trip? Because we do laundry 3 times a week in this household. We don't have a ton of extra stuff. So we just always have to make sure that we are going to have everything we need. I am a huge believer in mixing and matching on our vacations and re-wearing items. Obviously, we're not going to be re-wearing our socks and underwear, but everything else should be mixed and matched and should be pre-planned. Yes, it can be fun to go away and have your most stylish outfits, but then just pack your most stylish outfits. Don't also pack your schlubby outfits so that you have the option. Don't give yourself option. Take out the option before you even pack so that you can bring less things. So here is a pro organizer tip. Once you have everything laid out that you want to pack, go through it and put about a third of it back. Trust me, you won't need it, and overpacking will literally and figuratively weigh you down. And there can be a cost associated with it if your suitcase weighs too much. So our big goal is to always only pack carry-ons. And we did that in Portugal, even though we were in 3 different cities, but we stayed overnight in 2 different cities. We had 2 different climates because we were in a coastal town that was very warm. And then we were in a city, which was still warm, but definitely cooler. And it was possible. And the reason for packing carry-ons, obviously, you don't have to deal with losing luggage. But the other thing is when you are traveling around Europe and the cars are so small, they oftentimes can't accommodate huge pieces of luggage. And when we went to France last year, we took a train from Paris to the south of France. And again, we just had carry-on so that each of us could be responsible for our own items and that we'd be able to easily fit our belongings on the train. Now, this is where I'm saying when your kids are older, stuff like this is easier because you don't have to worry about diapers and bottles and formula and all those things, right? We can all be responsible for our own belongings at this point, and it is highly possible to just pack things on a carry-on. And the way we do it is each of us has a carry-on suitcase and then our own backpacks that have our devices, our toiletries, snacks for the flight. If you are going to check a baggage, this is my third tip, which is to strategically pack your carry-on. So what I suggest is each person traveling packs in their carry-on their toiletries, a set of PJs, 1 change of clothing, and any kid essentials if they have a lovey or something that they would be devastated if the luggage was lost even for a day or 2. This way, if your luggage does get lost, it's not going to impact your vacation, assuming it's only, I shouldn't say lost, I should say delayed, assuming, because it's rare that luggage is truly lost. It's really more just delayed for a half a day or a day. If that happens to you and you have one of everything you might need in your carry-on, it just takes the stress out of it. And even if you're planning that just to make yourself feel better, even if there's no chance your luggage is going to get separated from you, it just can feel good to be prepared in this way. And obviously, if you have little ones, making sure that you have tons of activities and snacks in those carry-ons will be a game changer. But strategically packing your carry-on, if you're going to check luggage, is a great way to not only actually be prepared, but to help reduce the stress of travel. And then my final tip is to take care of house stuff as much as possible before you go. Stress-free travel prep isn't just about the actual travel, which these first 3 tips have been about, but it's making sure that your home is taken care of while you're away so that you don't have to stress about it. And also so that you don't have to do a million things when you get home. So one thing to think about is, what are you doing with your mail? In the past, I have put my mail on hold, and then you can schedule it to be delivered the day you're getting back, so that as part of your reentry and reset, you can go through it all. Now, we often have someone come check on our house while we are away, sometimes multiple times, and we'll just have them bring in the mail or any packages. But definitely make sure that you are thinking about what to do with your mail. There is also nothing more obvious than that you are away than an overstuffed mailbox. Same thing with newspaper delivery or trash pickup, making sure that you notify that those need to be put on hold. Toss any food in your fridge or pantry that might go bad while you're away. But also, something that we did before this trip is on Saturday, because we weren't leaving till Saturday night, we actually bought all of our non-perishable groceries that we would need when we got back, like for the kids' lunches and any snacks, all the things that are non-perishables, so that when we did the groceries when we got back, you can do, if you do a grocery delivery order or you're going to run out and get them, we actually had our housekeeper grab groceries for us. It was a much shorter list of just those few fresh items that we needed for the week. And it made that so much easier. I also love to do all the laundry before I leave, because you come back with a week's worth of laundry, however many days you've been gone. It's almost all dirty and needs to be done. So to come home to empty laundry baskets feels so good. And of course, I do a complete home reset, so that coming home really is just about unpacking, throwing in a couple load of laundry. I usually have to beautify, because that's something that needs to be done weekly. But all of the other house reset, even car reset, especially if you're taking a car service and your cars are just going to be in the garage, you can go to the car wash, you can fill your tanks with gas before you even go away. So you come home and yes, have to unpack and do laundry, but you really get to re-enter life and the week feeling totally relaxed and on top of everything, because you don't also have to deal with resetting your house. And I know amongst all of the other chaos and stress of travel, that can feel like the lowest priority. But it actually, now that you're so organized, because you've been in my world for a while, and if you're brand new, welcome to your organizing journey. But the more organized you get, the quicker that reset gets, and the bigger of an impact your vacation has on you, because you're truly able to enjoy it, because you're coming back to an organized, streamlined home and life. And that vacation high gets to, live a little bit longer throughout your week. All right, friends, I know that traveling can be stressful. And it is, and requires a lot of pre-planning. In our household, I am very lucky that my husband does most of our vacation planning for us. He enjoys it much more than I do, but it really is a team effort in terms of getting us prepped to go. So let's make sure that the stress of travel is not overshadowing the joy of vacationing together as a family and all the wonderful memories that you are about to make. And doing some strategic planning in advance really can make it so much more enjoyable. And never underestimate the power of resetting before you leave, because you get to come home and have that vacation high continue. So to recap, obviously, if you are driving somewhere, making sure you have an emergency kit in your car, that's sort of like the bonus pre-tip. And then the 4 tips to help minimize your travel stress are pre-plan your transportation, start packing well in advance, strategically pack your carry-on, and take care of your house before you go. I wish you so many fun vacations in your future. And before I got totally organized, or I guess as part of my organizing process, when packing was way more stressful and when my kids were little, I needed a checklist to just help give me some sanity, because there were so many things to pack, right? Baby monitors and just all the things. As I have gotten less stressed in life in general, because we've gotten more organized and the kids have gotten older, packing in general stresses me out less, but I think it can still be really helpful to have a packing checklist. And so I want to gift you my packing checklist. I actually used to sell this on my website, but I would love to gift it to you for free. And it is cold weather checklist. It's warm weather checklists. It's for girls. It's for boys. It's for little kids. It's for big kids. There are many, many checklists at your disposal here. And I literally used to print this out before every single time we would travel, and I would check it off. And then as the things would go in the bag, to calm my anxieties of, oh my God, did I actually put this in the bag? Rather than having to rifle through the bag again, I could just look at the checklist and I could see, yes, in fact, it is checked off. It is in the bag. I don't need to stress about it. So to get your hands on my travel checklist, go to gritandglam.com/packing. And if you're not going to remember that, just scroll down to the show notes. Scroll down. That is a mouthful. Scroll down to the show notes, and there will be a link in there for you to get my free packing checklist, or go to gritandglam.com/packing. Friend, I wish you many joyful and stress-free vacations this summer and for the rest of the year. And I'll be back in your ears next week. Have a great one.